Hello, beautiful world.
Hello! I'm still waiting.
Okay. You can wait.
I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait.
World has to be over.
Okay. Hey! I see video. Here we go.
We're definitely here.
It's frozen as frozen can be.
What do you mean it's frozen? As frozen can be.
Let me refresh the page.
Zachception.
Haha! There we go.
Is that a Zach inside of a Zach inside of a Zach?
What?
I'm watching the comments. Zachception. Come on, autofocus. No autofocus? There we go. Zachception. Oh, I'm on his jargon. Who dat? Who's administering our page without permission? Are we getting hacked?
I do believe it's my wife with my phone.
Oh.
Because it's got the big screen.
Do we not have sound?
We
should most definitely have sound right now.
There's sound. Check to make sure you're not muted. I said that. There's no sound when I checked that.
Okay. Well, we should be good to go. Can anyone confirm that we are definitely sounding? That we have sound?
I hear sound.
You hear sound?
I have sounds.
Excellent.
User error.
Lots of user error.
I'm muting the video again because, yeah.
Yeah, we don't want any of that shenanigan coming through. Okay, I'm just gonna...
All right.
gonna post these comments right here where I can see them and respond to them in a timely manner.
Yep.
Alrighty. Let's get into the news, as Keemstar would say.
I'm sorry, I had to. That guy gets on my nerves.
Oh, me too, man. Me too.
He's such a jerkhead. Either way, let's get this story started. We're here for tech, not douchebags.
Douchebaggery. Alright, yeah, I guess I'll get this started with security, as is mentioned on the title. So as we all know, WannaCry came out, was it last week? Yeah, just about a week ago. And WannaCry was unfortunately very good at what it does, minus a few things.
I have points to touch on this as well.
Okay.
Go
yeah, I'll go forward with the topic. So, number one, this wasn't in my notes, but the period of time in which WannaCry demanded your money has expired.
Yes, it has.
It has definitely expired. But that's fine, because the topic of this conversation is WannaCry ransomware decryption tool has been released. You can now unlock your files without paying ransom. You never should have paid the ransom in the first place.
Not a lot of people did. That's what I wanted to comment on.
Yeah, they didn't make much money off of this thing at all.
So it was estimated that 200,000 computers were infected.
Mm-hmm.
Out of those 200,000 computers that were infected, they were charging $300 a pop for the decryption. That's what the Bitcoin currency transfer would have equated to in USD was $300. And they made $92,000.
That's really poor turnaround.
That's less than 1% of the people that were infected actually paying the ransom.
That's terrible. Well, luckily, if you have been infected, there is a free tool available. It was made by Adrian Gwinnett, a security researcher from Quark's lab. It works for Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows Vista, Windows Server 2003, and Windows Server 2008 operating systems, which is pretty much every platform that was affected by this, minus Windows 10, earlier builds of Windows 10.
Like, can we just throw out there how badass this guy is? Like, he deserves a round of applause.
Yeah, absolutely, and he'll get it.
Like, the dude, that is so cool. It's kind of like the dude, the hero nobody talked about in the beginning. The dude that found the open domain and bought it.
Yeah, and that was almost accidental. I mean, that was his job. It wasn't completely an accident, but in his own words, he accidentally stopped the spread of the malware. So to quote Adrian from Quark's lab on this, he says, in order to work, the computer must not have been rebooted after being infected. Please also note that you need some luck for this to work, so it may not work in every case. Basically, what that means is this tool will only work if the computer has not been rebooted after infection. So if the program is opened, you cannot close the program. You open the program, you keep it open, and this tool will work. Also, if you do too much on the machine afterward, say you open Chrome and you're able to browse a few websites to figure out what the hell's going on, basically
You're out of luck.
Kind of, because what happens is Chrome will overwrite the bits in the RAM that have been infected that are storing these security keys. And that's what the tool does. It reads the security keys from live RAM and actually decrypts them on the fly.
Well, so I'm going to break that down a little bit further. Kind of one of those like explain like I'm five things.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if you're not fully aware, the way RAM works is it's very similar to your hard drive, where it stores small bits of data, or it stores the data that's actively being used. The big difference is that it's not permanently there. As more data is being pulled, it overwrites the old stuff that was there to begin with.
Yeah, and that's why if you have multiple apps on your phone open, for example, if your phone doesn't have that much RAM, if you go into the multitasking menu and you tap on an application that's way up there, sometimes you'll see it flash white for a moment and then reload all the information, and that's because that memory has been erased by other applications in the RAM.
Same reason why, if you put just another example thing that I noticed on my old phone was if I had Facebook in the background too long, when I would click back in the Facebook, it would reboot, it would relaunch the application.
Yeah, it would reload the news feed.
So, and that's why, is because the RAM filled and it started erasing the oldest data first. So if you've had the WannaCry encryption open for quite a while, and it managed to hit the back of the RAM pull, you're probably going to be out of luck.
Yeah. But, if you don't know what you're doing, you should probably seek help from a professional anyway. I mean, I'm open for business, just saying.
Just throwing this out there for a lot of people. And honestly, one of the big reasons why I personally believe that they failed, why they didn't make as much money as they thought they would, especially with the amount of impacted computers they got, is everything's in the cloud, man.
Yeah, and really, you should be running cloud backups and any kind of solution that keeps data away from your computer. I mean, we used to call it offsite backup in the industry long ago, and you should still kind of practice that. But now there's really no excuse for not using something like Carbonite or even OneDrive for basic backups.
So, yeah, OneDrive comes with every installation of Windows. It's not huge, but it's more than enough to back up at least the operating system.
Exactly.
And that's a huge thing too. Is like,
well, actually, not quite,
people,
Zach. Not quite, because I think you only get like 15 gigs for OneDrive.
Well, that's enough to cover the base OS.
Yeah, it's close, but with the base OS, you can just reinstall it.
True. Unless you wanted them registry files, son.
Back up your data, people. Back up your data.
So, and that's the thing too, is generally when you buy a subscription to Microsoft Office, which there are a lot, a freaking ton of Office users.
You get 1 terabyte of OneDrive space with every Office 365 membership.
Exactly. But seriously though, like most people everybody uploads their photos to Facebook. Everybody's, they're Instagramming and stuff like that. Like most people's, memories that they want to keep, like the photographs that are sentimental, they're normally on Facebook. So
Facebook or Google Photos or some other social media site.
So a lot of people, the average user, they're not generally using their computer to back up stuff like, tax documentations and stuff that's not already being backed up by whatever office filed their taxes.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it that way. TurboTax, I know they back up old W-2s and tax returns. Plus, if you're using something like QuickBooks, I'm sure they offer some kind of solution. But regardless, no matter what you use, make sure your files are safe somewhere off your computer. So if you do get, infected by WannaCry or another kind of ransomware, you always have a backup. You always have something to lean on.
Precisely. And if you are one of the average users that everything's backed up somewhere else online, just either yourself or take it to somebody that's a local technician or a good friend that's decent with tech, and just have them reinstall the operating system.
Yeah.
Just wipe it clean. Don't pay that shit.
Never. Now, a lot of people are using cloud backups, but there are different ways to apparently keep WannaCry at bay. A patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church found a very novel way of keeping WannaCry at bay. Check out this picture. This is a patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church making sure that the Ministry of Internal Affairs computers won't get infected by the WannaCry virus attack. Reports state that he poured or spritzed holy water on the systems, to prevent any kind of wrongdoing, and sage was also used quite liberally. Whatever works. Whatever works.
I wonder as they were doing this, if they could feel like the shock of it working.
Yeah, I wonder.
I mean, it was a bad one. I was bad. I'm sorry.
It's okay, man. It's okay. I just wanted to get that out. Did we have an issue with Facebook? I noticed it just went off on my phone. Are we still live?
Yeah, we're definitely still live.
Okay, cool. Well, I will get that out of the way so we can move on to the next topic. Zach, do you want to cover that? The Vega Frontier?
Yes, I will most definitely.
Okay, while you're doing that, I will pull up Facebook on another source.
All right. So, Vega Frontier. All right. It's here, guys. It's here. Kind of.
And it's exciting, too.
And it's super exciting. All right. So, there's been leaks and talks about Frontier for a while. During some demos earlier back, we got to see glimpses of Frontier, showing an 8-pin and a 6-pin power adapter. But here's some of the cool stuff about it. So, man, where to start? This is so exciting, right? So in 32-bit, losing myself here. 32-bit processing applications, the new Vega Frontier can push up to 13 teraflops. And in 16-bit, 25 teraflops. But just like the 32-bit one's really where people are going to be showing a lot of interest, and especially because the Quadro 6000, which is the top dog NVIDIA card right now, only pushes 12. But
I think I have a screenshot here of that slide you're referring to.
All right. 16 gigs of Hynix HBM2 high bandwidth memory, 4,096 stream processors. And if you're kind of curious about what a stream processor is, NVIDIA calls them CUDA cores.
Yeah, they're just little tiny processor cores that handle small tasks, but they can handle hundreds, if not thousands, of tasks per second. So,
Exactly.
Kind of the way a CPU is, you have a few cores, a few very fast cores, right? And they can all handle a lot of data at once. GPUs are kind of the opposite in that they have many slower cores, right? So you have many more processors handling kind of more bandwidth, a lot more information, but they're only doing like a few processing cycles per second. So that's much better for, say, rendering video, any tasks that require a whole lot of bandwidth all at once, instead of more narrow processes that are better for a CPU.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So some of the things that we're going to see is the Frontier Edition is going to come with a blue model that's going to have the traditional blower style cooler. There's also going to be a gold colored model that's going to come with a 140, maybe a 120. Don't quote me. Either a 120 or a 140 millimeter radiator attached to it.
And I have that pulled up right now, the liquid cooled version.
So, and looking at the liquid cooled version, as you can see there, there's no fan on that. None whatsoever. So that means that whatever, like the liquid cooler they have on there is actively cooling GPU, VRAM, power phases. Like you're getting the liquid cooling, sexiness on the entire card there, which is awesome.
And there's a larger version of the image too. It looks like there's a fan on the radiator as expected, but yeah, you're right. There's no fan on the chassis of the card at all.
Yep. So as you can see there in the picture, there's two 8-pin power connectors. The reason why, and I dug into the AMA on Reddit, the reason why they decided to do this, it wasn't because it requires that much power. They just wanted to give everybody as much headroom as possible with overclocking and stuff on the new Vega lines, which I thought was a really awesome thing to do. But just to finish it off, this is not the gaming card. This is like the deep learning, machine learning, 3D application monster. Their RX Vega will be launching later. Raja stated that flavors of RX Vega for actual like gaming and stuff will outperform Frontier, so that's super exciting. But would you like to take over another article?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna, I guess, cover the next one. NVIDIA will be using GDDR6 on the new Volta GPUs. And again, this is kind of like enterprise technology, not consumer grade graphics cards that you're going to throw in your next PC. See, previously we thought that NVIDIA would be using HBM2, that is high bandwidth memory. I think, did that nomenclature change recently? I feel like it did change from high bandwidth memory to something else.
So,
is that true?
All right.
Let me put you on the spot there.
So what exactly are you asking?
HBM, does that still mean high bandwidth memory?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so never mind. So we thought it was going to be using the second generation of HBM, but it looks like it's just going to be GDDR6, which is still great.
For now.
Yeah, for now.
It's launching with GDDR6 and should be moving to HBM2 on second cycle release.
Okay, that's good. So again, that's on Volta's GPUs. Now Volta is just the code name for basically what goes into NVIDIA's Quadro lines and all the super high-end components that are used in server farms and like Pixar. Pixar uses them. So GDDR6 isn't that surprising. We knew that was going to happen eventually, but GDDR5 has been around for, man, what, 5-6 years?
Yeah, it's been around for a while.
It's definitely getting long in the tooth, and NVIDIA has done a lot to kind of increase it with GDDR5X that they're running in a GeForce 10 series graphics chips. But we were kind of hoping for HBM2 right up front, and unfortunately that's not happening. So
a couple things that I want to throw out there against this article. A, it is definitely a rumor at this point. This is all being associated off of what Hynix stated in their press release, and it was very good timing. Hynix made a press release showing that they were shipping HBM2 in GDDR6, and AMD and NVIDIA were both recipients. Samsung's press release showed that AMD was not getting any of their HBM2, but we know Vega is going to be running HBM2. So we already know where Hynix's high bandwidth memory is headed, but the GDDR6 wasn't accounted for. And then right after the press release, they showed up at GTC 2017, which is an NVIDIA event. And we're showing off brand new GDDR6 chips.
Yeah, and this is that article that we're linking to. SK Hynix lists HBM2 and GDDR6 for AMD's Vega and NVIDIA's Volta in the latest memory data book. So this article does have all the information that is listed there. Something kind of appended to the end of this is that Volta is due in the first quarter of 2018. And new GeForces will be the first with GDDR6 memory. So those are, in fact, your consumer line GPUs, not necessarily those that are used in giant data centers and very expensive applications. These will be things you can buy at Best Buy.
Yes. So, along with all this information, big things to keep in mind is, as of now, it does look like Volta will be dropping with GDDR6. It should transition to HBM2, and this is for the V100, which is like, it's the Tesla V100. So that's a deep learning card. It'll also drop onto the Quadros, and after the Quadros, that's when consumer grade Volta GPUs will start streaming out, which will probably be, I'm going to say late Q4 2017 or Q1 2018 before any consumer grade Volta stuff is seen.
So Brandy did ask earlier whether the casing was metal or plastic. I think she was referring to this Radeon GPU here. So yeah, normally, I'm just going to go out and say what I think, because I don't think it was mentioned. I think it's going to be plastic on the front, but have kind of a brushed aluminum finish, and the back plate will most likely be aluminum.
So I'm gonna follow that up with that's what AMD did last time.
Plastic and aluminum backplate.
Yes, they did a false brushed aluminum look over some shiny plastic for the shroud, and the backplate was aluminum. It was aluminum and steel.
Right.
And then, but honestly, just on my personal opinion, when you threw them inside a case, they looked good. You couldn't tell, especially a case with a window. Like, the light was distorted enough by that you couldn't tell it wasn't a metal shroud.
Yeah, and I mean, on the front, it doesn't really matter whether it's kind of metal at all, because
it faces the bottom of the case.
Yeah, there's that, and it's not going to help with cooling at all.
No.
The only thing that would help with cooling is directly touching a chip, and there's obviously a heatsink in there. A heatsink takes care of that, and the backplate, excuse me, the backplate does directly touch components through heat pads, and that's why the backplates are made of aluminum or copper or steel. Most likely aluminum, just for cost savings.
So I just want to apologize real quick. I saw a flicker of light. Small issue with the lighting in my apartment lately, and if it flickers much more, I will turn it off.
Okay, you're fine, man. All right, so what do we have next?
Jarring for me, so I'm sure it was jarring for everybody else.
Could have been. I'm sure we'll see some flack in the comments about it. So next, do you want to cover the Intel licensing?
All right, yeah. So I covered this last time. I don't remember if it was video 1 or video 2. Either way, I covered a story where supposedly the reason why AMD split Radeon into its own thing was so the fact that AMD branding did not have to be covered on like if another company decided to put Radeon graphics in their stuff, they didn't have to have an AMD logo on the system. Especially if you were talking about an Intel system running AMD graphics, you could say Radeon and not have to put AMD's logo right next to Intel's. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the thought behind this was the fact that people knew that NVIDIA and Intel, like they broke the contract. NVIDIA is no longer making GPUs for Intel's processors.
Which is really interesting because that's how it had been for a long time. I don't think I've actually ever seen, say, a laptop with an Intel processor and basic AMD graphics. like low end stuff.
So
Normally,
yeah.
it was just all AMD, or it was Intel plus NVIDIA.
So a lot of people speculated that Intel would be using the new Radeon branded graphics chips to make their APUs and their laptop hardware. Intel has released a statement saying that is not true. All right. So Intel has denied that they're going to be using AMD GPUs in their new processors.
I have a link to that source here.
Yeah, I have a couple comments I'm going to make after this too. When they were asked whether or not they would or would not use AMD processor or AMD GPUs, they refused to comment. So they're not saying no, we will not, or yes, we are, but they did state that we haven't made a deal yet. Essentially, just throwing that out there again, they will no longer be sporting NVIDIA GPUs under a partnership. NVIDIA has partnered with IBM for their microprocessor line. And honestly, I think Intel's got some thinking to do because let's face it, NVIDIA has built CPUs and GPUs. IBM builds CPUs and they've partnered now with NVIDIA for GPUs. AMD builds high performance CPUs and high performance GPUs, but Intel's got nothing. They've got their CPUs, but they have like zero R&D into high-end graphics.
Right. And, Intel's just never really been there for graphics. They tried with their low-end lines. I hate saying low-end, but let's be honest, that's what they were.
Let's face it,
Intel's can't game on Intel graphics. You just simply can't.
No, Intel's highest-end graphics card that they've ever released couldn't compete with any of the low-end graphics on the market.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
It didn't.
So the thing is, what do they call the new high end? I know it's in the Max. Iris Pro. That's it. Yeah, Intel Iris Pro graphics are much worse than the new GTX 1030 that was announced, and that thing sells for like $60. And most gamers, legitimately, if they build a PC, they'll budget anywhere from $200 to $700 for a GPU.
Like, let's face it, the lowest end of the low-end gamers right now are spending $130 to $150, and they're slapping 1050 Ti's in their system.
That's absolutely right.
Why? Because the 1050 Ti gets the job done. It's not pretty, but it does it. Yeah. And it does it efficiently. And Intel's highest-end graphics can't touch it.
They can't even come close. And the worst part is, they have a whole market of non-gamers. They have content producers. They have educational students doing CAD work. None of those applications can use Intel graphics realistically. If you're doing CAD, you're going to lag. If you're trying to encode a video, you're going to be there for a week. Even, it's just
a week. You sure? It's a month, maybe.
and even if you're a business user, I know at my job, they purchase low-end, even a few year old NVIDIA cards like the GT 730. That goes in the systems to run 3 monitors. If you need an Excel spreadsheet to stretch across 3 monitors, you're spending $20, and that's almost insulting. $20 on a 5-year-old GPU to handle it. You don't trust Intel graphics.
No, and that's a big thing too. Is like when I'm looking at laptops or anything I want to purchase, if it doesn't have an NVIDIA logo on it, I won't buy it.
Yeah, AMD just doesn't have anything in the mobile market right now.
There is a small story on that. I don't have the stuff to cover it this week, but I will say AMD has announced that they got the Ryzen lines for laptops up. They will be releasing within the next quarter.
Ryzen, so that's CPUs. We need to clarify that are processors, not graphics cards.
Yes.
So
well, I wanted to throw that out there anyway because as of this moment in time, AMD's got nothing in the laptop department.
Yeah, I mean FX. I don't think there were any FX processors, and maybe they released a few APUs for really low-end laptops. But
I was gonna say, well, the A series laptops, those did
those.
exist. I've seen some A8 and A10 laptops, but that was the closest to the FX line you were getting. And everything other than that was Athlon and Phenom, or however people pronounce that.
I would say Phenom. That's just
I always
me.
say Phenom too, and half the people agree with me, and half of them complain. So
Exactly. But you have that in this industry.
So, but that's the big thing is AMD's honestly, they've got nothing competitive in the laptop department. So with Ryzen coming there, Vega dropping soon, we should see some awesome stuff. And hopefully AMD's faster on the draw than NVIDIA was with Pascal.
Absolutely. And actually, in regard to AMD APUs and new CPUs, this is a nice segue into the next story. So I'll go ahead and take that if you don't mind.
Go for it.
We have this titled AMD is back into the Epic. Bum bum. So AMD has a few new platforms coming out. Of course, they just did release Ryzen 5 and 7. 3 is probably on the way, undoubtedly. And they did release, or announce rather, a new processor architecture called Threadripper. I'm going to get this one out of the way first. So Threadripper, according to this article on PCGamer.com, that is going to be a 16-core, 32-thread CPU architecture.
And its name is John Cena.
So that is twice Ryzen 7's core counts. Again, Ryzen 7 is the high end of the AMD CPU market right now, and it is really pulling its own weight. But we've covered that in previous episodes. So it looks like summer 2017 we should see something about Threadripper, and maybe this will be my new CPU build. I do need to upgrade my system. This will be cool.
Threadripper is going to be a beast, but there are some things to keep in mind. A, the name is stupid.
Yeah, kind of.
Just like the server chip being named Epic is stupid. And I say that I am an AMD fanboy through and through. I love AMD because they're the underdog. Like they used to be on top, then they got knocked to the bottom. It's like some sort of Rocky story. You know what I mean?
AMD fanboy over there. Yeah.
It's just to the fact that those names are so ridiculous. It's not even funny.
Yeah, I mean Athlon, Ryzen. Plus, I just want to make a note very quickly that why do you call your graphics cards R9, R7, R5, and then call your CPUs R5, R7, R9? Make something up. I mean, even if you have to go back to something like Athlon, right? Give us model names that make sense.
So, like, I understood, kind of, in the graphics card department.
Yeah.
Like the R7 and the R9 and stuff like that. It stood it stood for Radeon.
Yeah, and that made sense. And R for
Just
Ryzen
like
makes sense.
I was gonna say, well, Intel's i-series processors, the I stands for Intel.
Right.
Like, it makes sense.
But don't reuse it.
Exactly.
I mean, it came from the same company. Sure, they've split, right? You have Ryzen, or I'm sorry, you have Radeon Graphics Division, and you have AMD. But don't reuse the same product name. Anyway, that was just my little rant. We need to be more concise with our model numbers, because when I have average users, average customers, when I try to decipher model numbers with them, just woof, right over their head. We need something that the average person can understand.
So, just a quick question though. All right, you said you were thinking about possibility of doing your personal rig using Threadripper.
So, I mean, possibly if my budget allows for it. I know the CPUs are going to be upwards of $1,000, but
so here's some of the big things I want everybody to keep in mind. So, Epic is going to be the Naples server release, right?
Yeah, that's the other thing. The other announcement in this thread was Epic, which is the server side.
We'll cover that chip in just a second. So, Threadripper is based off of Epic, so it's not going to use the AM4 socket.
I had not seen that yet, so
yeah.
Okay.
So Threadripper.
If you want to cover that, I'll read over this article a bit more.
All right. So Threadripper will be using the same socket as the Epic CPU. which is not uncommon. It is not uncommon to see server grade sockets or server sockets on general workstation or high enthusiast consumer boards.
Definitely enthusiast lines, yeah.
So say, just an example is you can literally go to any tech website right now that sells hardware and buy a socket 2011 V3 like gaming motherboard, and those sons of bitches were designed for Xeons. Like,
yes,
you know what I mean? So it's not uncommon to see enthusiast consumer grade products running server sockets. But just throwing that out, like with that in mind, 16 cores and 32 threads. Like, hell yeah, it's awesome. But what workload are you going to put that thing through that's going to utilize 32 threads? Like,
so, I mean, I guess for that kind of thing, probably video encoding if the application supports it. Plus, I guess you could always write your own software if you were really into it. From a software development perspective, to actually make use of 32 threads would make a lot of applications much quicker. Now, to be fair, my experience in software development is quite limited. Most of it being with generating Excel reports. You could still multi-thread a lot of that. You can multi-thread, say, your server connections, your database connections, and while it's retrieving the information from the database, you could go ahead and load it into that Excel document or something like that. Is that necessarily right for me? Probably not. But I see a lot of potential in content production.
See, yeah, all right, I fully agree with you there, and like that's a big thing. Is like I was honestly kind of expecting the virtualization answer.
Oh, how did I forget about that? This would be amazing for that. Yeah.
But that's the thing, and we can talk about it a little bit more after the stream. But apparently, Ryzen is not very good at virtualization.
Yeah, I need to look into that. You have a Ryzen system currently, so I will definitely confer with you on that before I do a build with Ryzen, because virtualization is huge for me.
And it's not that Ryzen's bad at virtualization; it's just not the best. But at the same time, do you have to be the best if you're good at what you do?
Of course.
Well, what I'm stating
no,
is
you don't.
What if I can buy a 16-core, 32-thread processor that's good at what it does, instead of a 12-core, 24-thread processor that's great at what it does for, if I can buy the 16-core one at a fraction of the price, I honestly think that would be the winning chip.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of it comes in, is the budget, and that's going to be different for everybody. So if we can just jump into Epic, I do have that part of the thread here. Thread, but
Go ahead and cover that if you want.
Yeah, so again, Epic is going to be the server-side version of basically Ryzen. I mean, it's kind of Ryzen, kind of not. But they're releasing both at around the same time, so I'm going to compare them quite often. I don't know if I can find that portion of the article here. So it looks like Epic is going to be using 32 Zen cores. So Zen is again the microcontroller architecture that builds Ryzen. So 32 Zen cores, 8 memory channels, and 128 PCI Express 3.0 lanes per socket. And keep in mind, most servers come with 2 sockets. So you can have potentially 16 memory channels in a server and 256 PCIe lanes. Now, those PCIe lanes are going to be used to power anything from GPUs to 10 gigabit per second network cards. So the possibilities for that are kind of endless. And with that many lanes, you can fit hundreds, potentially, expansion boards in a system and be able to do a whole lot with it.
So here's some craziness, right? So I watched a little bit more on the press release where they talked about Epic.
Okay.
And some of the really cool things that I saw that a lot of the articles touched. I didn't really want to like throw a whole bunch of stuff, like a crap ton of source material in there, because I don't want to overload people. But some of the things some of the things I saw is that with the 8 memory channels, and we're talking DDR4 channeling. Mm-hmm. So the Epic CPUs will be able to support, it was like 4 terabytes of RAM.
And that's spread, of course, across all 8 memory channels, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's, what, a 256 gig? Yeah, 256 gig modules.
Yeah, so, and across 128 PCI Express lanes. So let's remember how PCI Express lanes work. Effectively, if you have 128 PCIe 3.0 lanes, you're not going to be able to use them all, because some of them are going to be used for the chip to communicate with other portions of the chip.
That's correct, yeah.
But even if you got 100 of those lanes, and let's say you use those for GPUs, right?
And GPUs top out at 16.
Let's say you lined those sons of guns, sectioned off properly to the cores,
right?
Allocate everything, because we're talking virtualization here. So laid everything out. You got the cores sanctioned. You've got the lanes sanctioned. And let's just say you're using NVIDIA's Volta. Let's say you're dropping the V100 in there, the deep learning cards. Like, can you imagine the powerhouse of a supercomputer that you now have?
No, I can't, because we don't have anything quite like that yet.
Like, that's insane. Like, just mind-boggling power. Like the raw horsepower that the system's producing would be insane.
Yeah, and that's going to be perfect for deep learning. And there are so many good open source initiatives out there that could make use of this. And I'm sure Google is going to be Google released their own kind of chip, which I'm not covering this week, but they have a large data center application that they're able to sell now, and you can actually use that for Google AI. But artificial intelligence and deep learning is definitely going to take advantage of this.
So, most definitely, it's a freaking fantastic time to be a hardware.
And if you're not a hardware enthusiast,
it's still a great time to be alive.
Yeah, it's a great time to be alive.
All right. So, honestly, though, I think we've covered everything that we really can about AMD at this point.
Yeah, I mean, well, even over the last couple of weeks, there's been so much AMD news. I'm not sure what else they can even announce at this point. Maybe they partner with SpaceX or something.
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
So I guess before we move into the next story, a couple things I'm going to throw out there are the fact that, one, AMD is still working with a lot of its partners on Ryzen optimization. So just a quick heads up, anybody using a Ryzen processor, go ahead and check your motherboard's the motherboard manufacturer's website, and make sure you don't have a BIOS update, because it's going to add extra stability, a few more secret changes here and there to give the support of specific programs and better overclocking headroom. All right, you want to move into the next story?
Yes. That'll be the Chronos, right?
Yes. Would you like me to take that one away?
Actually, yeah, go ahead and take that. That way I can cover Google.
Okay. So Chronos is merging OpenCL and the Vulkan APIs. Not a whole lot to cover about that, really. OpenCL is an API generally used for compute power, versus Vulkan's generally like a graphics API used for gaming and other similar applications.
Very quickly, though, on a Mac system, I know Adobe. So very quickly, I don't have Adobe running on AMD graphics on Windows. My Windows PC that runs Adobe applications has an NVIDIA GPU, so I use CUDA. However, I know at my job, I use a Mac for work, and it has an AMD graphics card. It has I believe the M380 graphics chip in it, and Adobe uses something called OpenCL for that as well. So it's not only large scale applications, even just panning around a Photoshop document, we'll use OpenCL. That's all. You can go ahead. Sorry.
That's fine. I was just refreshing my stream. It froze up on me.
Sure.
So
it's done that a couple times for me too.
They're merging the compute power of OpenCL with the graphics processing horsepower that Vulkan has. Moving forward, OpenCL will no longer be a thing. Everything's being brought under the name of Vulkan, so the Vulkan API will hold kind of like the master over the two APIs merging, but Vulkan will now have added support for all of the background compute power that OpenCL brought to the table. I think that pretty much covered all that. Any questions?
Yeah. It was a very short article. It doesn't mention really anything else. I think it's gonna. If we can just take a moment to have some remarks on this, I think it's kind of good because both of them use a very similar kind of architecture underneath. So I think it's good that they're being merged under one name. I mean, most people won't even care what it is, but honestly, it's good in my opinion.
Yeah, most definitely. And it's just one of the things that it's really going to do, though, is making it to rewording, processing. Hang on.
Sure.
So game development. All right. So let's face it. Like the only big game that used the Vulkan API was Doom.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The only large recent game, yes.
So, but adding OpenCL in the background of that, it's going to make it a lot easier, especially for partners that like to use the OpenCL and the Vulkan APIs. Like game developer wise, such as Bethesda, it'll make it a lot easier for them to design games on Vulkan.
Right.
Because they're going to get the raw computing power and compiling that OpenCL brings to the table within the new Vulkan API. So they'll be able to build in that exact same API that they're going to be pushing to render.
Exactly. And companies like Adobe, they can just, since OpenCL is now included in Vulkan technically, all they have to do is target Vulkan, so they get everything that they would have received with OpenCL for their processing capabilities, but they also get access to everything that's in Vulkan too. So probably like dynamic lighting, all those APIs that are available for gaming, they can include in their content production applications and anything else they really want to do with it. Maybe they can rework some of those gaming APIs to help with independent processing or parallel processing even. They can improve render time with Vulkan. It'd be kind of cool.
It's a smart move. It's a very smart move.
Exactly.
So let's move forward. You were going to cover the Google story here?
Yeah. So I guess the big news story this week would be Google AI. Wow. Google AI, yes, but Google I/O was the name of the keynote. Of course, I/O is I/O, meaning input output. They just call it Google I/O. So a few of the main talking points for that. Number one, it was announced that over 2 billion people are currently using an Android device. Now, of course, that is split between Android phones, Android tablet, mostly Android phones, Android tablets, Android Wear on their smartwatches, Android, I think it's Android Auto, that's the name of it, for the cars, and there's also some TVs being shipped that ship with Android. A few other small statistics. There are now 800 million active users on Google Drive, 500 million Google Photo users, and those users upload 1.2 billion photos every day on Google Photos. Just a little number crunch for you. They did also announce availability of the Android O beta. So Android O is going to be the next version of Android. Currently, we're using Android Nougat. I believe Zach and I both have that on our phones.
Yes.
Right now, Android 7. I'm running 7.1.1.
My phone's downstairs with my wife.
Uh-oh. But yeah, Android O will be the next version of Android. The beta is now available. The beta currently supports picture-in-picture mode, so you can watch a video, have a little a video thumbnail kind of available while you do other things on your phone, like work on a Google Doc or even remote into your computer. It supports Google Autofill, which is available in Chrome now, so you can just tap on a text box, it'll autofill your information.
You got the source for all this?
I do. I can pull that up right now. That's on. Do you not like seeing my face?
No, I was just curious because I normally you like scroll the source with it, but you've been like,
yeah. Well, this source is a kind of a slideshow, and I did them out of order because TechCrunch did not put the slides in the correct order, so I fixed it. And a couple more optimizations were available in the Android O beta as well. So if I can skip through the slideshow, I guess, to find the next part. Where it be? Android Go. There it is. So Android Go is kind of a lightweight version of the Android operating system. It's targeting cheap devices and developing markets. So I expect to see a whole lot of $20 smartphones in the market in the coming years. That's kind of exciting.
So I'm not gonna knock any $20 smartphone down. I've been using a $30 LG Optimus G3, I think it was. It was a $30 old Android phone for Virgin Mobile. I've been using it for like 2 years.
Wow.
And
you've done a good job holding out.
I did not want a big phone. That's always been my thing, is I didn't want a big phone. And unfortunately now my phone is friggin' huge. And like it still fits in my pocket. It's just like,
but it doesn't fit in your hand.
Really, no. Like, dude, it feels like I like slid like a Kindle Fire around, or I'm holding one up to my ear.
Wow. Yeah, I've got a. Bear with me here. Here's a 7-inch tablet. Just make a phone call on this thing. So.
Yeah. That's essentially what it is. It's got a 6-inch screen. It's a very small bezel, but still, yeah. Like essentially, that's the size of my phone.
I couldn't do it. I mean, I can barely fit my thumb. Actually, I can't. I can't fit my thumb on the other corner of this, and it's only a 5.2 inch. So, like, no, I'm sorry, 5.5.
When I use my phone, I gotta like hold my hands up like this right here, and I gotta like cup the phone in both of them because this thumb can't reach all the way across. Exactly. And I gotta like tap the very edge with my other thumb. And
sometimes your palm kind of gets in the way. It rubs the side of the screen. Go ahead.
Got a big hand.
Yeah, you do. So some more news here. This is Google Lens. Google Lens has been available for a little while. Basically, it's Google's way of kind of understanding the environment around you. Now it is much better at what it does. So this new version of Google Lens, one of the things it can do is, you know those little stickers on the back of your Wi-Fi router that show the username and password?
Yes.
Okay. Hopefully you change that information, but if you don't, Google Lens can actually scan the username and password, detect that that's what it is, and offer to automatically connect to the network for you. So you don't have to mess around typing in a really clumsy network key.
So I can see high convenience and high problems with this.
Yeah, I mean, you should be not using that password in the first place, but that's just an aside.
So just throwing this out there. All right. So some ISPs, they offer very secure initial passwords. One instance of this would be Comcast, which is what I use. They offer 256-bit encrypted passwords as like, and it's hexadecimal based, like from the start.
Okay.
So like they offer very secure passwords that are built out of like a 1,000,000,001 generator, blah, blah, blah. So they're very secure, but there's other ones. Like I've owned some old Cisco and Linksys routers that literally when you plugged it in, the username was admin and the password was admin.
Yeah, that's no good. And that's for the administration, right? Not the actual Wi-Fi network.
It was both.
Yeah, that's bad. That's real bad.
When I used to run through Time Warner Cable, when years ago, it was a very similar thing there as well. The password for the admin account to log into the router and the password for the Wi-Fi was identical. It was a little bit more secured out of the gate. It was password 1, but still.
That's terrible. So moving on, we got to cover this Google I/O coverage very quickly. So Google Assistant is now available on iOS, and it just showed.
That's awesome.
It just showed search results. I was hoping it would have some kind of really cool blurb for me, but it didn't. So yeah, Google Assistant now available on iPhones and iPads. If you have one of those, go check it out. It is my favorite personal assistant. It's real good.
It's much better than Cortana, and it's a hell of a lot better than Siri.
Siri doesn't even exist. Don't even try to use Siri. Pretend that Siri doesn't exist. Get Google Assistant, and just go from there. Cortana's okay.
Listen to this, all right? When you have to make, all right, when you make your, your little assistant have funny responses, if that's your effort, there goes my light again. I'm sorry, everybody. If that's your effort at making sure that you seem relevant with your technology, it's sad. It's a sad excuse.
Yeah, a focus on features first, then add the quirks.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry. Like, it's cool if I ask Siri where I can hide a body. Hilarious. Like,
just curious. We're gonna do this live. Where can I hide a body? She offers to search the web. So yeah, that's probably for the best, Google Assistant. So just a couple more things here. From the Assistant, you can now order directly. You can order food directly. Excuse me. In the keynote, they used Panera Bread as an example. So they searched for Panera Bread. They said, "Hey, I would like to order this." Assistant said, "Would you like any options with that?" And she was able to place the order directly from that using Android Pay, which was wonderful.
So, small disclaimer, one thing to keep in mind is that it will not be available in all locations. Not everybody has the restaurants that will be supported close by.
That's true.
Do your research before you attempt it and become disappointed when food doesn't show up.
Yeah. And I believe there's got to be some kind of fix in the works. Like if, we don't have a Panera Bread here. So if I tried to order Panera Bread, it would say, "Oh, where are you ordering from? Atlanta?" No, I'm a little far away from Atlanta, but thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure that poor delivery person for Panera Bread 4 hours away is going to really want to bring that to you.
Exactly. So Google Photos now suggests to share photos with people. It automatically detects. So if I were to take a photo of Zach, for example, on my screen, if it saw Zach in my contacts, it would say, "Hey, would you like to share this photo with Zach?" And I could do that.
And he'd be like, "Hell no! Like, he doesn't know I took the picture."
Yeah, we don't want to let him know that. And
this was a picture for me.
The YouTube app for TV now supports 360-degree videos.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. And that's it for Google I/O. I can cover the...
If you want to do the assistive technology real fast, that'll allow me to do
that'll be
the next two stories.
That'll be very quick. So currently Microsoft it seems like they're just giving away free copies of Windows, which is fine by me. So currently, if you have a Windows 7 or Windows 8 machine, you can still get free Windows 10, by the way, and this is legal. Completely legal. All you have to do is say you use Narrator or Screen Magnifier. Any software that lets you... Any assistive technology software that helps you use your computer, it actually qualifies you for a free upgrade to Windows. So, as we mentioned previously, Windows 10s is coming, and there is an upgrade available from Windows 10s to Windows 10 Pro. That upgrade is also free if you use assistive technologies.
Now, we're not saying, "Hey, go abuse this," because that's how you ruin good things. What we're saying is if you are one of the individuals out there that does use the assistive technology. I've got a lot of family members that I've actually set up assistive technologies for them due to bad eyesight or hard of hearing, similar things like that. And
right, the most common is Screen Magnifier, definitely.
Exactly. So if you are one of the people that are worried about the transition because everything's set up for you, Microsoft has a pretty good tech support department. They can most of them can walk you through any scenario you want, and we're talking like basic ground level text that you're getting a hold of. And the upgrade's free. They're not gonna like bang this, all the money out of your wallet just because you wanted to upgrade. Like, this is a really cool thing we're seeing out of a high end tech company. Generally, companies that are all about money. And
yeah, Adobe.
Yeah,
I just want to throw Adobe out there.
Don't abuse it, but take advantage of it if you need it.
Yeah, definitely. So it's good to know that's available, and that's pretty much all I had. All I had for that story. So if you want to cover Alan Wake.
So all right, so Alan Wake. I'm just going to be really quick about this. It's a cool story. So last week we discussed the fact that as of Monday of this week, Alan Wake is no longer available in any digital download online store. All right, so you can no longer purchase Alan Wake from online stores and have a fresh copy because the music licenses were up. So there's some really shady background deals that happened here. A lot of it breaks down onto Microsoft, though, because Remedy Studios, the people that made Alan Wake and the makers of Quantum Break, they partnered with Microsoft for the IPs to build these games. Microsoft held responsibility for licensing, renewals, and just the overall distribution of the titles. Microsoft refused to renew the music license on Alan Wake, and then told Remedy Studios it was their job to let the fans know that it was going down.
Which is unfortunate.
It's really sad to see that, especially with how cool they're being on like the free upgrade department. It's a really lousy backdoor action,
Yeah, definitely. They have to kind of choose their battles too.
So, but what is cool is Remedy Studios has stated that they have now partnered with 505 Games, and they're working on brand new titles. While they were in that discussion, the CEO, Taro Vitala?
I have the article here as well. And not just be warned, this article is just one big block of text with one picture. So I'm gonna click on that picture.
Just scroll through that. So what he stated though is they were asked, will we ever see an Alan Wake 2 or a Quantum Break 2? And the CEO said no. It's very unlikely. It's not a definite no, but it will probably be many, many, many years before one was to ever even attempt to be made. So, and the reason why is because Microsoft still owns most of the rights to the titles and the IPs. They own the IPs. So,
right.
Without Microsoft giving the go-ahead, make Alan Wake 2, there's nothing that Remedy Studios can do. They already have, they've stated before that they've got the works. They have everything they would need to make second titles, but the permission. But with their new games coming out, 505 Studios, their partnership with them, or 505 Games, sorry, they've got a much more lenient partnership. So Remedy Entertainment will get to hold a lot more of the value and a lot more control over the IPs. So we will actually get to see a lot of games releasing from Remedy Entertainment with sequels.
That's good to hear. So, for the future, anyway.
I don't think there's really anything else to cover about that story. Anybody have any question?
Probably have to give them a moment to actually type out the
comment. So Alan Wake technically did not get a sequel. So there was Alan Wake, and there's Alan Wake American Nightmare. American Nightmare was it was a very broad spectrum recreation of the original story, not a direct sequel to the original story. So what American Nightmare was, is it was, Microsoft saying, hey, build this game, but put it in America this time.
Yeah.
It was essentially the same story, though. Just different plot twists and a lot more rednecky guns.
I hate it when that happens, when people just take an idea and recycle it. Call of Duty.
Battlefield.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair, I guess. But I just hate it when people take one idea, recycle it over and over and over and over and over and over again just to be a cash cow, and make sure they can squeeze as much money out of it as they want to.
it sucks.
Yeah,
It
like,
really does.
It's like turning a video game to a sponge and just letting it drip money all over the place.
Yeah, I'll fully agree with you, Katie. It may not be a direct sequel, but it was more content, and it was a great game. I own them both. I've played them both. They're both fantastic games. But yeah, where it's just an Alan Wake 2 is really what we wanted to see. Like, because the original game was so baller. But
so moving on to the next story, I can take this if you want to.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Finish off on a cool note. So, in media news, The Witcher, you've probably heard about that if you're a PC gamer, is getting a Netflix show.
Bum, bum, bum.
That's right. And I guess there are books too?
Yes. So actually
Cool.
the games are based off of the books.
That makes sense. Just like a kind of a Tom Clancy kind of thing.
Yes, very much
Okay. So, it has some amazing people working on the show, according to the notes Zach wrote. I do have the article here. Yeah, The Witcher Saga on Netflix.
There's a lot of people working on the show. There's no way I wanted to but there are a lot of amazing people in the show, including the author of the books.
That's wonderful. So it looks like the author has created, I'm quoting Eric Barmack here, the Netflix vice president. He said, they've created a rich and memorable world, at once magical and familiar. We couldn't be more excited about bringing Netflix members around the world. That seems like broken grammar, but I'm going to go with it. So that's really cool. I mean, I haven't played The Witcher. I think I have a copy of The Witcher 2 on Steam. I know Zach has played it. It looks like a very, very immersive game, and I can't wait to see what they have on Netflix.
So far in the games, I've played and beat the first two, and I have the third one. I kind of got burnt out on the third one, honestly.
Gotcha.
It was one of those things to where graphically it was amazing. The world was huge. They did a fantastic job. It was just the story was very recycled from the second game.
It wasn't fleshed out enough for you.
What it was is they kind of backpedaled the third game, and they covered kind of the end of the second game as the beginning of the third game, and I got burnt out playing the same content before I ever made it into the new stuff.
Completely understandable. Again, it goes back to the conversation we just had. I hate when people take the same thing, put a new wrapper on it, and sell it as a new game.
Exactly.
Well, that is fine. Now, you have a wonderful ending to this show today, don't you?
It includes a video.
I have the video here, so I will make that full screen so we can see it.
All right, before you play the video, I'll just go over this real quick. Essentially, some really smart folks had a brilliant idea, right? So HTC has built a Vive tracker, and it's a device that you can use to track objects or things around you while you're in the headset. It allows you to put whatever you're playing into your game so you don't lose track of blah, 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 blah.
Right.
These people had the genius idea to attach it to one of the jackets that they put on their cat, so they can track the cat's location while they're in game, so they don't trip over it. And honestly, you could use this same idea for tracking not only just cats but other pets in general, dogs. But another thing that they touch in the video will be like, you can actually put this on your kids, like let's say you got 3-4-year-old children that are constantly running around and screaming. I got 2 kids. They go crazy all the time and have fun. And I would hate to be in the headset and trip over my child. Like that would be so terrible.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and play the video.
Yes, please.
Okay.
When you're in VR, you're effectively blindfolded. We've often had it where our cat would run into our play space while we're playing the games and testing. This is HTC's Vive tracker. We attached it to a jacket so we can actually see him run around in virtual reality, so we don't end up kicking him or squishing him in any sort of way. there's no reason why we can't change it to a dog model or your baby.
Okay, so that's it. I think that's a little excessive. Maybe just find a nice resting place for the cat, you know?
Or
Just
like,
throw the cat in the resting place.
close the door.
Or close the door. Yeah.
You know, like I understand. Not a lot of houses don't have doors that close off every room. Most of the places I live do, but I know some family members. You know, like the kitchen, living room, dining room, and stuff like that. They're all attached just like archways. There's no actual door that could be closed between them. So if you're at the biggest room in your house where you have your VR set up would be your living room, then yeah, I could see some small reasoning behind doing that.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. I think we were just hit with a copyright strike for that video, by the way, which we will handle after the show.
Yay!
That's cool. That's real cool. We'll keep that in mind for next time then. Well, I think that's all we had for this week, right?
Copyright strike for that.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
We'll cover it after.
All right. I guess last thing to throw out there was the video, like the dodo, like your logo was in the corner the whole time, bro.
Yeah, and we'll happily source it, but again, we'll cover that after.
And we showed the source link as well from your share. So either way, that was all we have.
Yeah, everybody, feel free to stop back next week at 7 p.m. Eastern. We will cover anything that happens from now until then.
All right, I'm just going to clear up a couple things out of the comment. Yes, GTA loves to remake their own games. I hope that the Witcher TV series or Netflix series does not fail like the Legend of Zelda one has. And yeah, if we could get some more Dante's Inferno, that would be badass. Like on Unreal Engine 4, please, anybody that wants to make the game, I'm begging you.
Yeah, anything on Unreal Engine 4, I'll take it. That engine's so good. So good.
And release it for PC. Like Dante's Inferno being on console strictly last time, that was a dick move.
All right, everybody. You have a wonderful week. Remember to check back with us next Saturday at 7 p.m. for the week's tech news.
And we're always on the Facebook page and stuff like that, making sure that we're keeping track. So if anybody wants to try to get a hold of us through the week, feel free to send us a direct message on the Facebook page.
Absolutely.
And we'll get back to you relatively quick. I know I got my notifications turned on.
I do.
So, as Derek said, have a good week. We'll see you all later. Bye-bye.
Bye.